Okay, so I have a 2004 Ford Expedition. I've been dealing with some vacuum leaks, and at this point, I've isolated the vacuum leaks down to two major locations. I did a video on the solenoid assembly controller for the climate control. That was one of the major vacuum leaks, and I started a video for the actuator, and I didn't finish it because the part that I bought, um, this is the part that came off the truck. When it was on the truck, I tested the vacuum on this larger diameter um, nipple here, and I found that there is a leak in the bladder that allows this to compress, and then when there's no vacuum, decompress. So when there is vacuum applied, this actuator pulls this gearing into the actuator, and it takes it off of the wheel hub. So these splines are no longer engaged in with the wheel hub. Therefore, the wheel is now independent of the axle shaft and the rest of the drivetrain. When there's no vacuum applied, this extends out. These gears are straddled across both the wheel hub and the axle CV shaft, which ties the two together, which gives you the four-wheel drive. It's a fairly good system. However, one of the issues that has been found is this getting a vacuum leak in it. Now, there's a couple reasons why this can happen. I think age is one reason why, but I think the more important reason why is, well, let me just show you. Okay, so what we have right here is the hub solenoid controller. So it's a solenoid that allows vacuum through it or not through it. And you can see here there's a kind of a bundle of vacuum lines down here, and depending on whether there's been any work done on your vehicle because of vacuum leaks prior to getting it, there may be splices and whatnot. But there's a main vacuum feed line. This main vacuum feed line tees off and goes to two sections. There's two T's. One T goes into the front underneath the dash through the firewall to the controller of the climate control blend doors. So it's the solenoid bank that basically controls whether or not you have vents, or whether or not you have it on the floor, or whether or not you have it on split or defrost and floor, or defrost only. So that's important. That's because that's one area that issues come about. The second area is the second split, where it goes into this solenoid, and that supplies vacuum to the hubs. Now, as you can see, there's a little shroud over this one. The original design did not have this shroud, and so when it rained, water would come down the cowl over this piece here, and water would get on this. And if you had a substantial amount of enough water, what would happen is water would get into the lines, and it would be taken to the hubs, or in my case both. It was taken to the that solenoid assembly. And the only reason I realized that was a potential was when I opened up that solenoid assembly, there was moisture in the vacuum lines there. So this solenoid here is now covered, and so I've got a replacement. So if you still have a solenoid assembly that doesn't have this cover, and you have vacuum issues, this is where you start. Start right here, replace this solenoid, and see if that fixes your vacuum issues. Okay, so from here, these lines, like the main line continues on to a vacuum reservoir that's right behind the battery here. It's kind of a flat reservoir. So if you're watching this and you have vacuum issues, best thing to do is go down to AutoZone and rent a vacuum gauge It's just a little hand pump that you can use to either apply vacuum to test components or hook up to the main vacuum line to determine whether or not there's a vacuum leak. So what you can do, like I said, is you get that gauge, you can disconnect the vacuum line, the feed line here, and connect that gauge. Set that gauge out here on your windshield, go drive around, and hit, you know, all different types of driving, whether it's high acceleration with high RPMs to accelerating while trying to keep the transmission in the gear it's in, so under more load, if you will, to determine whether or not the vacuum leak is further back this way. Because there are a couple components that with quick search you can find dry rot out and become culprits, like the PCM, or not the PCM, but the PCV valve elbow. That's one. There's a main supply vacuum line, the back of the intake. There's about a 1-inch elbow that is a culprit, and then those two are the big ones. But then if you come back here and you still have a vacuum issue, but it's not from the supply line, you can connect it up on the other side of this T right here. And when you connect it up on the other side of this T right here, that means you have now the climate control still connected and the vacuum supply line. So then what you can do is you can go drive around and see if you're losing vacuum when you turn on your climate control system. And then from that point you can determine whether or not you're losing vacuum in different vent settings, or if it's all of them. If it's all of them, it's most likely the solenoid assembly. Chances are it's most likely the solenoid assembly no matter what. And then if you replace that and you still have vacuum issues, which I would test these anyways, but you can go, like I said, you can go to the back of the wheel and you can find these hubs. This is how it'd be oriented on the wheel. You'd have the wheel on this side of the hub, and you'd have the vacuum supply line, and then you have a vent. If you just take that vacuum supply line, put the pump on right here, which I may have a clip of video doing that. If I do, we'll insert it right now. Okay, so you see I just found a vacuum elbow that fit both the diameter of the hose on the tester and then onto the diameter of the actual actuator. So when I pull this out here and I start putting vacuum in on it, it'll put vacuum, and then if I get enough vacuum, I'm not hearing it, but the last time I tested, I actually heard the hub click. But you can see I'm putting vacuum on it, and it's not holding. You put that pump right on there, pump it up. You should get, you should be able to get negative or 15 to 20. I don't know what the measurement levels is, but 15 or 20 on the gauge in vacuum. And if it holds, then this actuator is most likely good. But check both of them. It turns out that I had an issue on the driver's side actuator and the climate control. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and replace the one that I've already replaced. Like I said, I've been in here before. Half of the actuator is still on my truck. I left it on. I took this piece off so that I wouldn't have any engagement issues. But basically, this piece has been taken off the other portion of the actuator, and it's still sitting on my truck. This is the piece that I took off, and this is the new piece that I'm going to put on. For those that are like me and like to go the cheap route if possible, this is the result of me going the cheap route. This is a Dorman hub actuator, and it came just like this, broken. Gotta love it. So I ordered this part number off of Amazon. It was 113 bucks. So it was, yeah, about 50 bucks more than the Dorman, but I guarantee from what I've read and the fact that it's OEM, this will most likely withstand a lot more scrutiny than this one. And the fact that this broke so easily, it makes me wonder how long before it would have broken. And the thing is, you wouldn't really know, because your wheel will just always stay engaged if this is broken. No matter what, your wheel just stays engaged all the time. Or it's going to slide back and forth and cause spline issues. So, you know, in this case, unless you're just checking regularly, I wouldn't go with this, because once you get it on, you may not know. And the only reason I knew was because I tested the wheel with vacuum applied after I put this on, and it would not engage or disengage out of what we call full drive. So this, unless, I mean, like I said, unless you check it, you wouldn't know. Where, you know, this one I'm going to have more likeliness of a solid part. So I'm going to link a video for those of you that want the whole teardown process on this. That guy has a phenomenal channel, and he does some great detailed videos on teardown and reassembly of different stuff. One of them which is this particular video. So I'm going to get into this. If there's anything that I see as I'm into it that differs from his video, I'll point it out, but chances are this will be the end of my video. So like I said, check the link down below. Buy OEM parts. If you have a vacuum issue, start at that solenoid and work your way back, and get a gauge from AutoZone to rent, because that will tell you. There's no guessing when you lose vacuum when it's on a gauge. It tells you. So yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully I can get back on this channel with some other expedition stuff, even though I don't really do a lot of expedition repairs on this channel. So thanks for watching, guys.